How's it going? What's the crack? Welcome to the Waterford Poetry Prize winners announcement. Doing this as part of the Waterford Writers Weekend. So we're going to read out the three winners today along with their bios and what they've won. So to begin, I'd like to announce third prize, and third prize goes to Pig's Meat by Kieran O'Rourke from Galway. Kieran O'Rourke's first collection, The Buried Breath, was highly commended by the Forward Foundation in 2019, and the second collection, Phantom Gang, has just been published by the Irish Pages Press. He is a previous winner of the Court's New Irish Writing Award, the Fish Poetry Prize and the Westwood Poetry Prize. And you can find out more information about Kieran and his work at ragpickerpoetry.net. Kieran receives €200 in prize money. So I'm just going to share his poem now, and it's called Pig's Meat. Last year, 300,000 pigs died out in moving pens before the teeming abattoir, their predetermined destination, could chop their livid limbs to bits. In the USA, a boring butcher's nation, transported head to rump in cages and shuttle-trucked en masse for days. The vast majority of cases, veterinary minds surmise, gave in to stress of heat or frost or mid-traumatic panic, pain, arriving to their slaughter slain, a carcass predeceased. The pig, a meditative creature known to regulate high temperatures by bathing in the mud, temperamentally disposed to feeling misunderstood, an amiable, romantic thing, a birthing soul, will slow assemble detritus in a ring, weather-beaten sticks and leaves to formulate a mound, the hollow cavity within an overbranching roof in which to settle. Laying aside, waiting finally for cries, a tiny mewling in the dark in which all pigs today do end. When delivered to the factory, a nearly million more, it said, were drawn across the killing floor, their shivered legs not knowing any longer how to walk. There you go. That's Pig's Meat by Kieran, and an unbelievable poem, a relentless raging sequence it was of rhymeless couplets. And third place is always for me. I'd like to have joint third place all the time, but this one won out really clearly for me because the poem is really tightly controlled. These lovely couplets, rhymeless couplets, but the whole poem is really long, but it's literally only 4 sentences, and the longest and most livid, kind of walking like a climax in a movie where in this madness and complexity of industrial slaughter, it's given way to empathy and this moving insight into the life of one loving pig. And it's like a poem this angry has to be controlled. And it's like a celebration of precision. All the line lengths are so exact and so similar. And it's in a way it makes the incomprehensible understood. It's like this thing is too complex for us to see, but the poet takes it and makes us see it. And it's almost anti-capitalist, not in a political way, but it simply leaves us with its truth. This thing we're all too busy to fully consider. So yeah, well done and congratulations to Kieran, who's in third place there. So now to announce second prize in the Waterford Poetry Competition, and that's to Christina Park for her poem, A Break in the Weather. And her bio goes like this. Christina Park is a freelance writer and editor based in Wexford, who has had pieces published in various national newspapers and broadcast on RTÉ's Sunday Miscellany. Her poems have appeared in Poetry Ireland Review, The Sting and Fly, The Shop and Crannog. She was shortlisted for the 2015 Bridport Prize, runner-up in the 2020 Trócaire Poetry Ireland competition, and placed second in the Shahida Hanua Poetry Competition in 2022. And Christina receives €300 in prize money, plus a writing course in Ardmore, County Waterford. So just to share Christina's poem with you now, it's called A Break in the Weather. All day I've been waiting for a break in the weather, and it comes. Yes, it comes. They say it only happens in movies, but here it is, that lifting, tightening of light. Of course, the wine too, frosting the glass, it's no sin. Doesn't matter what I'm drunk on. You, for instance, undeniable, walking to my table. Take your time, take mine. These things only happen in movies. That ping, as the flat world, catch released, springs 1,000 shining edges. Teal sea reaches for turquoise. Cutlery crashes a cymbal in the back of the restaurant, and my humble spoon on a cushion of shadow blazes. You sit down at my table, squint a sun smile and say, what's the E? Yeah, and just to talk a little bit about a break in the weather, it's full of those little kind of secret stitches. The thing that I'm a sucker for in contemporary poetry, just assonance, just kind of holds it all so brightly together. And it's a really bright and shining poem. Everything is kind of breaking into light. Light is everywhere. The whole flat world catch release, that lovely spring in the middle of the poem. And I think for me, it's like every poet's dream to make that humble spilling blaze, to see the extraordinary in the mundane. And it's full like, I love the sun smile, this little cheeky hyphen between sun and smile just sticks the two of them together like snapping two pieces of Lego together, making this casual but like gigantic and cosmic connection between the light and the smile of the person you're in love with. And we're all hopefully lucky enough to get that feeling. And the poem is lovely and formless as well, like resistant structure. And in resistant structure, it's forced to make its own lovely modern poem in that way, using indents as a time and device. And the whole poem is kind of informed by cinematic structure and style as well. The whole thing's like, picture this, imagine, it's kind of like the poem like a pitch, a declaration, and tribute to love. So yeah, well done. The second prize. And now to announce first prize. And just before I do that, I'd like to say thanks to Margaret and all at Waterford County Council for their support, supporting such an amazing prize. We had way more entries this year than before, and it's a real challenge to pick a winner and to limit the poems that I want to commend and recognise to only 3. So if you didn't make it this year, keep going. Yeah, so many amazing poems that I couldn't select, it's like the Hunger Games at the end, the poems are just fighting it out and I just have to pick 3. So yeah, just to say, first prize goes to Ian Hickey from Limerick for his poem, In Between. Ian Hickey grew up and lives in Limerick City. He currently works as a lecturer, teaching English literature. His first book, Haunted Heaney, Spectres and the Poetry, was published by Routledge in 2021, which was the joint winner of the British Association for Contemporary Literary Studies Monograph Prize. His passion in life is surfing, and he would give up everything just to spend the rest of his days aimlessly wandering Ireland's west coast in search of waves. Ian receives €400 in prize money plus a writing course in Ardmore, County Waterford. So this is Ian's poem, In Between. I'm on the side of the Shannon where kings and soldiers lived, and Helgeson first lay down his camp to change the tide of time. To go by Thomond where nails sliced 5 wounds on the bridge, or to cross with the dodgy umfle with the split lip and rackety yoke, eyeballs red from the joint smoke. His oar stabs the water, and we cross from one world to the next. The final journey down to the shades begins. Look, and you will find the land of unsaid goodbyes and the rekindled flames of life. I see the shimmering flames of bonfire night, and I am cast back to an 8-year-old child carrying door frames and lynx cans for explosions, set beside Slater's garage by the steps to the river, my cornea aflame as people jump over the fire and land on their feet, tacky scorched by sparks and tinder, until I hear the screams of a cat being dragged and flung atop, the wail of pain and dread like a child crying, this is pain, the kind I never want to feel again, but here I am years later, writing the same thing on a boat, dented like memory. How I missed the stolen car being burnt out cause I couldn't wake up, full of scar the next day, like the time I heard the shots that took the fiend's breath, motorbike screaming and not realising what had happened would happen again and again and again, like the screams of kids being beaten by shades for underage drinking in the old veg shop. You're fucked if you'll find help here. Only the cries of those who deserted the good life can be heard, angels who could not commit, in between in life, between my community and the one I now inhabit. I feel the scorch here. I know it. I am it. There you go. Absolutely fucking deadly poem by Ian Hickey there. Which, for me, is just brilliant. It's like this lovely 3-act structure of a poem, 3 parts, numbered 1, 2, and 3. I wasn't going to bother reading that out. But there's a lovely sort of setup in the poem before the build-up and this mad kind of black and orange explosion of Halloween vibes in a mad kind of council estate I can imagine in Limerick, which is just like the kind of place that I'm from and a lot of us are from. And it starts with I'm on the side you know. It's like a tribal. It's like, here I am. I'm on the side of the Shannon. And cross with the dodgy umflet on his rackety yoke, his oar stabs the water, all this Styxian imagery taking us on this journey. We're going to cross over. And it finds its real voice through names and places and this mad celebration of vernacular language. And the middle section for me is where the poem explodes, finds its voice, ditches all that kind of mythical nonsense and finds its home and finds its truth, you know, in this mad cataclysm of sounds and consonants together, all those sounds like that are building up to the horror of what happens to the cat. Simon Armitage said a poem is transport, you know, and this poem takes us so effectively into that kind of black and orange heart of Ireland, the bonfires and the violence. And that statement, this is pain, the triggering, like kind of talks about the triggering experience of right, you know, the peril and reward of, you know, leaving the bank and diving into that kind of journey, that scary journey into the subconscious. And the way when we're left, we don't know where we're going. And then there's that ding at the bow in part 3, just to remind us where we are. We're reminded that we're supposed to be going somewhere. We've not yet arrived. And then you're fucked if you'll find help here. All that internalised trauma of year upon year of abusive language that we can hear when the oppressed can hear, you know, said to us by others and then said by us to each other. And then, you know, the final sadness in the poem is we depart, but there's no arrival and you're left in between in life, trapped between banks. And when Ian wrote, I know it, I am it, I felt myself say it. And I think sometimes a poem really makes you feel seen, says something that you feel. And I felt like the poem was written for me. And I think like a really good poem makes every reader feel like that, has this mad parasocial life. Like the anchor man speaks to millions of people at once, but makes it feel like it's speaking directly to you. The good poets do that for you, you know. And finishing with that scorch, you know, it's a scorching poem, and to say, feel the scorch here. We feel the mark of Ian's background in his kind of literary third level university context. And he's attacking his background, attacking his culture while benefiting from it. That's the paradox of cultural capital. And it's something Tupac was literally chased out of his own estate for back in the day, and it's something Kavanagh and most poets, even someone like Paul Amin, knows full well too. So yeah, congratulations, hats off to Ian Hickey, who's the winner of the Waterford Poetry Prize 2022. Thanks.